everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I am chatting today with Raj Valli, who is the CEO of Thinkster Math. And today, with back to school season in session, he's going to be giving us some pointers on how to help train your kids to organize their minds and their thinking skills, and just in general, just some great organizational skills that you can help impart to them. So hey, Raj, welcome.
Hey, Angela, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Very good, very good. So go ahead, Angela.
I was going to say, yeah, if you want to share those. I know you said there are 6 really crucial organizational skills that parents can impart to their kids, and that really helps them make a difference.
That's right. No, I certainly want to talk about the 6 organizational skills, but I think that the most important aspect is, why are we even talking about this? Why is organizational skills even relevant for this discussion, for education, for a child, even for adults at this point in time? So I just want to take a minute to kind of contextualize the purpose of this discussion, which is how does the brain process information? What are the kinds of things that allow a brain to essentially get used to the fact that there is new stimulus, new information that is coming in? How does the brain organize information? How does it learn? So the whole idea that there is something called as a semantic neighborhood, which is things that are kind of connected to each other. So if I see Angela, maybe I know Angela is from Dallas, then somehow I'm thinking that semantically Angela and Dallas are together, right? Mm-hmm. So if I want to talk about how the brain processes this information, brain basically thinks that a human being and an animal are essentially in the same semantic neighborhood. That's an automatic processing. Whereas if you talk about hallways and buckets, the University of California at Berkeley actually had some study that they did several years back, and they said the brain doesn't automatically put hallways and buckets together. That is a learned connection that the brain has to think about or process or organize. So how do you make sure that the brain is able to organize information when a student is exposed to a math problem or a physics problem or a word problem or something that they have to deal with in terms of learning how to drive a car? There is new information that is actually coming into that particular individual for that student. We need to make sure that we can help that person learn as fast as possible, as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. So the organizational skills, there is a method to the madness, Angela. So it's not like we came up with these 6 things, but I just want to make sure I provide that context to everyone who's listening. And we've written a blog about this. We will, we can share this on our Facebook page. We'll talk about the organizational skills, and we will be writing about the brain science behind why we're talking about this as well. So just want to give you the context.
Yeah, and actually, I think I've heard something about that semantic neighborhood before, that's why parents have such a hard time remembering their kids' names, because it's like all the kids' names are in the same area of your brain, so you're like going through all of them before you hit the right one.
That's correct. That is correct. So the most important thing in my mind is, the 6 quick things that people need to be thinking about is, how do you think about activities? When you're talking about, what are the kinds of things that I need to get done? Do I need to get 15 different things done? Is there a way I can organize my activities? So the most important thing is, what do I need to get done, and how do I organize myself in terms of just doing the work? If I have to go to the grocery store, if I have to go get my gas filled up in my car, if I have to go pick up my kid, that essentially is a stream of consciousness in terms of the activities that needs to get done. How do I prioritize? Okay, I need to go get groceries, but I need to go pick up my kid at 2:30, 3 o'clock. I know you need to go pick up your son. And the whole idea is that, well, that needs to happen in 30 minutes. Groceries can wait. So you're not going to go to a grocery store before you go pick up your kid, because your kid is going to be waiting in school. So the whole idea is that we need to make sure that students can get comfortable organizing themselves. They can get comfortable organizing their effort. If they have a test that they have to plan for tomorrow, I think that needs to have a higher priority than probably a homework that's due maybe 10 days from now. That's what we're talking about, that the ability to actually find out what's important and what is the sequences. That is basically talking about organization of activities. The second thing that we talk about, which is how do you organize time around activities. Now, what are we talking about as time, right? So the idea here is that if you don't have time management skills, if I have to, let's say that you need to going back to the same example earlier, if I have to go pick up my son, I have to then go to the grocery store, then I have to go, pick up mail. You can't say, well, I'm going to go pick up my son, sit outside and be chatting with my friend who also has her kid in school for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to be running short of time for the 30 minutes I need to actually go do grocery shopping because the post office is going to close at 5 o'clock and I don't have enough time to actually get that work done. So the idea here is that the first thing one needs to get done is obviously organizing activities. The second thing is that can you make sure that you're thinking about allocating the right amount of time for those activities? So you have a priority list, and that priority list will only make sense if you can stick to some kind of a schedule. That you can basically say, I'm going to study for an hour for my math test tomorrow, but I also need to finish my AP history assignment. That also will take 2 hours. Then I need to finish my chemistry lab before I need to go to bed because I have to wake up at 6 o'clock because I have to be at school by 6:45. Otherwise, I'm going to miss the bus. The whole idea here is you organize your activities, you organize the time around your activities, and in all of those things, I can talk about Thinkster, the fact that we provide an identification of what are the areas of strengths and weaknesses, and we provide a sequence of assignments. I think I would probably talk about how Thinkster will help in any of these things probably at the end, because I'm more interested in making sure that everyone gets the idea about organizational skills is not about just organizing your desk or your bookshelf or your cupboard or any of those things, but it's about organizing and prioritizing how your mind thinks and processes information. And those are the kinds of things that Angela, that we focus on. The third thing that we focus on is essentially, once you know what activities you need to prioritize, once you know how much of time you need to give to those activities, then the question is, are you going to know what you need to do when you're doing the work? So, for example, if I have to study for a test, I have a math test tomorrow, and I have given myself an hour to study for the math test. Do you know what you need to study? Maybe you're really good. Let's say it's a test on figuring out how to manipulate decimal numbers. Let's say it's a third grader, fourth grader, and they need to be ready to answer how they can manipulate decimals, and they probably have problems that involve addition of decimals, multiplication of decimals, division of decimals. Let's say that this particular student is really good in addition of decimals and the multiplication of decimals, but they not so good in, or have a lot more questions. They need to have more clarity or clarifications on how do I actually do decimal division problems that involve decimal numbers. And if they know that information, then they can organize themselves and say, oh, you know what, off the 1 hour, and let's say these are the 3 areas that they need to work on. Mm-hmm. Of the 3 areas that they need to work on, should there be more focus on doing more work on decimal division problems, rather than, you can't say it's 20 minutes for addition of decimals, 20 minutes for multiplication of decimals, and 20 minutes for division of decimals, because the division of decimals or decimal numbers is something that the student realizes that he or she is not great in. And so they probably need to say, I'm going to spend a total of 15 minutes in the first 2 topics because I kind of know it cold. I just need to review it, so I'm not going to goof up tomorrow in my test. But I need to allocate 45 minutes for my focus on and making sure that I can really truly understand how to solve division problems that involve decimal numbers. This is extremely important. So picking and scheduling, organizing of activities, determining how much of time needs to be allocated, figuring out what to do when you're actually doing that work, that's incredibly important. That just tells you that, hey, I did the effort. A lot of kids come back and say, I worked hard. It's not about working hard. Every person wants to do an amazing job. The problem is not whether they're working hard or not. The problem is not one of lacking desire and discipline. It's one about trying to be smart. Can I be smart about how I spend my time? right? So the
True.
whole question is that these three things are going to be extraordinarily important, Angela, from my perspective.
Mhm.
Any quick thoughts based on what I have shared so far, Angela?
No, yeah, that is crucial. And as you know, I was a teacher, years ago too, in a classroom, and I would have kids that would come to me and say the same thing. That would say, oh my gosh, I studied for hours and hours and I still didn't do well. And it's like, well, you didn't study the right thing, or it's like a wasted effort if you don't do it strategically. So that's key.
That's right. But I have three girls, and I've interacted with enough parents and students, and the biggest thing that they come back and tell me is that my kid actually studied so hard, but I have no idea why that's wrong, right? And so I talk about this notion of mismatch between preparation and performance.
Mhm.
So you prepare for something, and then you don't do well. Case in point, my oldest daughter, when she was in middle school, actually she was in sixth grade. She was going for a violin competition, a music competition, where she was actually performing the violin, and she was like really upset that she didn't win a prize, and she said she struggled hard, she worked hard, and then I was like, okay, you know what? Let's talk about this, right? I'm really sorry that you didn't get what you wanted to get, but let's talk about the effort that you actually did. She worked hard for 4 days before the competition, but there are kids who are actually working hard for 3 months before the competition.
Yeah.
So the whole notion, and today, she graduated from Wharton, she's employed, and she's really happy. And even today, she comes and tells me that, Dad, you're damn right. The whole idea that there is a mismatch between preparation and performance, and how you prepare and what your expectations should be commensurate with your preparation, and that's where disappointment comes in, right? So it's about trying to remain smart, right? So
Yeah.
that's the whole idea about what we are talking about here, right? And the whole notion here, Angela, is to make sure that the brain has a method. The reason why I started this discussion with you about semantic neighborhood is because when you organize yourself, you're putting things in context, and there is a sequence of activities that you're trying to get done. And so all these activities that we're talking about, trying to prioritize the activities, allocate the time, making sure you're working smart in the time that you have, is only helping the brain get even better in terms of trying to get things done. The most important. So how do you know? In my earlier comment, I basically said the third important thing is to figure out, focus on the things that you need time to focus on. So if it's decimal division problems, you need to spend time doing that. Let's invert that question and figure out. Let the student get habituated to asking themselves, what do I not know really well? What are those things that are the things that I am uncomfortable? I may know, I may be confident about the kinds of things that I think I need to work on, but there are a few things that if you ask me, maybe the best way to ask themselves is like, if somebody were to ask me a question in this particular topic, what is the probability that I can guarantee that I get 100% of any question under this particular topic correct? And if the kid basically is asking themselves these questions for these three areas, for example, it's decimal addition problems, decimal multiplication problems, and decimal division problems. If one of those things basically say, well, maybe I'll get 3 out of 10 questions right, that's 30% probability of getting something right. Okay, now you know what areas you need to focus on. It's very simple, right? So the question that I tell my own kids, and I tell everybody that I'm interacting with, is that train your kids to ask themselves the type of questions that they would want to know answers for. But that's not important just for self-awareness. The reason is, when they are with a tutor, when they are with a coach, when they are with a parent, they need to be able to articulate, saying that, hey, Mom, I know these things well, but I'm really struggling with this particular problem type or this particular thing. Can you help me? That's actionable, right? Because then the child is coming and saying that, hey, I am really genuinely having some difficulty in this particular area. So by teaching them how to articulate questions that they need help with, and this is not just for getting your third grade, whatever test that you need to get for, but this is a life skill. Because if you don't know how to ask questions, if you don't know how to seek assistance, you're not going to be a great employee. You won't be able to work as a team. Even if you're playing a baseball game or a soccer game, you need to know, oh, you know what, you want me to help you kick the ball or hit the ball. Maybe I'm not the right guy for this. Maybe it's somebody else, but maybe I can learn how to actually be a better teammate, for example, right? So I think that's the most important thing that I would focus on, which is ability to articulate, the kinds of questions that they need to internalize so they can externalize when they are talking about it. And it goes without saying, obviously, when you're externalizing this, when you're externalizing your question or the area that you need more help on, one of the key things that we focus on in Thinkster, we also focus on, and I think this is an extraordinarily important life skill as well, Angela, is how do those words come out, right?
Oh, yes.
I'm sure you've had, you have kids, and you can talk about, how these things come out. Sometimes it's not the best in the
Oh
ideal
my
way.
gosh. One of my sons, just the other day was trying to write an email to a teacher, and he showed it to me. He was like, "Can you just check my spelling?" I was like, "You can't send this. No." Total rewrite. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we actually have kids that basically, send responses on our worksheet that, they say like, "Oh, this is stupid," and I don't get it, right? It's like, and what they are essentially trying to communicate is that they didn't understand what was being communicated. They didn't understand what was being asked. And, we always tell people that, and kids, it's a learned art over a period of time that, the way you ask questions, the way you articulate information, it's the difference between trying to be specific and trying to be vague. I'm pretty sure, I used to be a teaching assistant at the University of Virginia as well, teaching pre-medical students. And a kid may come back and tell me, I don't understand anything in this particular topic. What specifically do you not understand in this particular topic? Well, I don't understand anything.
Helpful.
It's really not helpful, because then you have to say, did you read this? Oh, I read that. Did you get it? No, I didn't get it. Okay, now I know what I need to act on, right? So the students need to know that when they are able to articulate what they are needing help with, I think it's much, much easier for someone to provide assistance. This is part of what we do in our tutoring program as well. We make sure that when our students are actually interacting with our tutors, either asynchronously through the worksheets or in a direct one-on-one tutoring session, we want to make sure that students are able to articulate what they are thinking. And it's going to be an incredibly important aspect of what we're trying to get done here as well. So the last thing that we focus on is obviously, and this goes without saying, but it's about organizing your effort. Most students actually don't understand words like persistence, tenacity, consistency, and the difference between a person who is an average student and a person who is basically an A-grade student all the time is not intelligence. It's not that they don't know what they are supposed to know. It's not that they are not capable of articulating. In fact, barring any biological challenges, Asperger's syndrome, autism, these, unfortunately, some kids have this, just the biological impact on their capacity to learn. Even those kids are capable of doing some amazing, fantastic things.
Yeah.
The point is that most students, invariably, in fact, I would actually say all students are capable of doing amazingly well, pretty much in any subject under the sun. And the only difference is tenacity, consistency, persistence. If they're going to allocate themselves an hour of work, they have to ask themselves, am I really spending an hour? Do I just spend 10 minutes checking email, going to FaceTime, talking to my friend? Am I getting distracted very often? Or am I being consistent in showing up at 4 o'clock and going for soccer practice? Consistent in showing up at 7 o'clock every day evening and actually doing my math problems? Being consistent and not giving up just because the first time you tried, it didn't work. Tenacity, the ability to not give up just because it didn't work the first time, it's okay. If, in fact, my argument is that if you try the first time and you get it, you're working on things that you already know. That's the most important thing, right? So if you're trying to learn something, everybody fails the first or second or third time or the nth time when they're trying to learn something new. Come on, Angela, we know this. I don't think any one of us started driving a car just because we saw a car, right?
Yeah. Not quite.
Not quite, right? And so this whole notion that students somehow think that they were in their room for an hour and somehow they are going to magically ace the test. It's not the same thing. They have to work, they have to be persistent, they have to be tenacious, they have to make sure that they are not giving up, and if they find that they have made a mistake and they're getting challenged, get some help. That's why we have tutors, that's why we have moms and dads if they have time to help you. But so when people think about organizational skills, I think sometimes these days Marie Kondo comes in, how to organize your cupboard, right? Okay,
yeah, exactly.
That's not going to make you an excellent learner, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's an awesome, and much more important application of organizational skills for sure.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I know that, Thinkster specifically has, sort of dedicated ways to make all of these organizational skills a part of the math program. So why don't you kind of share how these things are integrated into the Thinkster math program?
I'll just take a minute or minute and a half or 2 minutes just to be very quick. People can learn more about us by going to our website. The whole notion that, first of all, our principle and our ethos and our philosophy is that anybody can learn and anybody should be able to learn, because our goal is that we try to think that if we provide information in a way that the brain can absorb information, then it's very easy. So we have some things like we will start with a diagnostic test or a skills assessment test that will quickly identify what you know and what you don't know. And we'll focus on starting with things that you know so that we can actually make you familiar. So the more familiar, and I talked about this in another video chat that we had maybe a couple of weeks back, about the more comfortable you are, the more your brain is being primed for learning new things. So we start with that. We identify things that you don't know. And because this is part of the, what do I focus on when I'm actually focused on the activities? We try to prioritize what you are supposed to work on by making sure that, hey, this is a foundational skill. There's no point in making you work on an advanced skill because you're having a foundational skill that's actually weak. Let's go fix it. We also will try to make sure you can show progress on advanced skills. And then we make sure that there is a hyper-personalization of assignments being done just for your particular child by a tutor that is dedicated to just your child. It's not a musical chair. It's not a different tutor every week. It's the same tutor that's assigned to you for the rest of the academic year. We have actually had same tutor for the next couple of years. We actually have students stay in the program for a much longer period of time. And then every day students submit work and worksheets. These are graded and feedback is actually sent to the student within 24 hours. And on top of that, we also provide the ability for parents to sign up for one-on-one private tutoring sessions. The Gold Plan is the most popular plan. So what we do is we make sure that everything is organized. We expect students to do work on a consistent basis. We tell them, hey, you're supposed to do between 8 and 12 worksheets per week. I think it's very easy. It takes maybe 10 minutes to finish a worksheet. So we make sure that they understand that, and we have AI technologies that help us understand and collect more data. The more data we are able to collect, the more feedback we are able to provide to students, and the more quicker we are able to accelerate their learning outcomes. So we are very transparent. We have a parent insights app that parents can actually download and keep track of exactly where the kids are and how much of performance improvement they're actually seeing on a day-to-day basis. So I can go on and on, Angela, but more information is available on our website. But we are very much organized around the brain. We are very much organized about, around the fact that we want to make it super easy and efficient for kids to learn. And our motto is that anybody and everybody can basically kick ass. So.
That's awesome. That's that tenacity right there. That's right. So anyway, as Raj was saying, for more information about the Thinkster program specifically, you can go to www.hellothinkster.com, and you can even sign up for a free 7-day trial of the program that includes an actual live tutoring session with the tutor, so you can kind of see the whole program in action. But yeah, thanks, Raj, so much for sharing those insights into just building your kids' organizational skills, and that's so important. I know so many parents have that on their minds right now this time time of year with back to school and kind of settling back into that routine, just getting everything organized and including our minds. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.